photographs can be very helpful in terms of determining what happened to the body, and then in terms of where the locations of injuries are, based on my knowledge of anatomy in the body, I can definitely generate opinions based on that.
Sure, but with regards to, say, his work in general, outside of the fact that you could point out location of where there's entry and exit wounds, for instance, from a bullet, outside of that, would you be able to tell this jury exactly what Dr. Jordan had done with regards to his autopsy?
What he did for his exact procedures, no.
Okay. And in the event that you don't even have that, say, for instance, you're coming in here today, and the question is, well, did Tupac Shakur die of bullet wounds? Would that be something that you could just tell a jury like this without even looking at a record or photographs?
We would need some kind of record in order for me to be able to generate an opinion, or some kind of photographs for me to be able to generate an opinion.
And fair to say then, once again, that in your line of work, record keeping, record writing is critical to maintain the integrity of what you do as a coroner.
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any redirect, Mr. Giacomo?
Ma'am, Mr. Sam suggested, and I just want to make it clear, you're not regurgitating Dr. Jordan's opinions. You've formulated your own opinions as the cause and manner of death.
That is correct.
Thank you. That's perfect.
One final question based on Mr. Giacomo's. And fair to say, though, in order for you to do that, you have to rely on Dr. Jordan's documentation of what he did.
I relied on his documentation as well as the other documentation that I talked about, which was medical records as well as photographs.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for this witness? We have one more that we're waiting for. And have the parties approach. All right, Dr. Gavin, we have a few questions from our jurors. Were there any wounds to the head that you or Dr. Jordan observed or noted?
No, there were not.
And then, were all the bullets found of the same caliber?
I don't know what the caliber of the other bullet was, the one recovered at surgery.
Okay, state any follow-up based on those questions.
Do you even know what the caliber of the bullet was that was covered at autopsy?
No, I don't know this caliber.
Is that something that is not in your realm of determination?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Sam?
Doctor, I'm assuming you're probably going to say I don't know, but are you aware that if any Metropolitan Police officer or expert came forward to take a look at those fragments that we're looking at now, or any other fragments that were recovered from the body?
No, I don't know.
You don't know that?
I don't know whether or not somebody did that.
All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, thank you for being with us, Dr. Gavin. You are excused.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next witness.
Just before we call the next witness, I have in my hand State's Proposed Exhibit number 59, which is a certified copy of Marion Show Knight's medical records from UMC that night.
Any objection to the admission of those records, Mr. Sam?
No, Your Honor.
All right, those will be admitted.
I apologize, I don't know his name, but he is the custodian of records for MGM surveillance.
Okay.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Michael Ingram, Michael. INGRAM.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Mr. Giacomo, whenever you're ready.
Sir, how are you employed?
I work as an investigator for MGM Resorts.
What area at MGM Resorts do you have a certain job responsibility?
I have responsibility over surveillance and security surveillance and investigations.
Were you requested to come here to authenticate some video that was collected well back in 1996 from the MGM?
Yes, I was.
And have you had a chance to see any of that surveillance?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Did MGM keep a copy as well?
Yes, they have.
Okay, so you reviewed that.
Yes.
Judge, I have in my hand stage proposed exhibit number 115, which is that video I'd offer.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, that'll be admitted.
So I have three different camera views, three different files, I'll call it, that we're going to talk about. But back in 1996, can you describe the type of surveillance system we're looking at? Like, how is it, what medium was it originally recorded on?
At that time, it was recorded on VHS.
And did MGM reuse tapes every so often?
Yes.
And so when you reused tape, did you lose quality each time you kind of reused it over and over again?
Yes, the quality deteriorated.
So unlike today that's digital, some of these views that we're going to watch, it's going to be pretty hard to facially identify anybody. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I want to start with, actually, I just mark next to the order.
I need to switch it over.
I know, I just remember if it's the top or the bottom. There's two blues. Oh, this one? Yes, this one's over there. There you go.
It doesn't work that way.
All right. I'm going to show you the stage proposed exhibit number 144. You recognize what that is?
Yes, that's the MGM Grand.
Is that currently the way the MGM Grand looks?
The general layout of the casino or the hotel, yes, it's the names have changed and stuff, but
Okay.
the property is the same.
So we don't know if this is from 1996 or if it's from 2002, 2010, one in the last 30 years, but generally the layout's been the same.
Correct.
Put this up, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Your Honor, if I could,
Oh, I'll move to bit 144.
before we move to admit, can I just ask a couple more questions of this witness with regard to this particular?
You'd like to voir dire on this issue?
Yes, please.
You may.
Sir, with regards to the photograph that's been marked as proposed state exhibit 144, can you tell me if you can read the locations that are on that particular map?
I can read most of them. There's one that's a little fuzzy to me.
Sure. In terms of your review of the surveillance video from the MGM, fair to say that what we're about to see would indicate where the camera location was, including the name of the area that would correlate with what you have out there on the map?
As a general rule, yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll have no further questions.
Any objection then to
No
the
objection.
admission of it?
No.
It'll be admitted. State, you may proceed.
There's two areas on this I want to talk to you about before we show the video. Maybe more than that. Generally speaking, events like the Tyson-Selden fight, where would that have occurred at?
The MGM Grand Garden, which is located at the top of the screen.
Up here. Okay. We have an elevator view that we're going to see. Where is that located on this?
There's In the middle of the screen, there's 3 small boxes. Those,
Right here?
yes, those are the elevator core for the MGM grant.
And then if there's a camera that's going to say food court, that's kind of that's looking down a long hallway. Which hallway are we looking at?
The white box, yeah, you're going to be following that basically to the Grand Garden Arena.
So when you come out of this box, you can either come down here or across the casino, essentially.
Correct.
So now I'm going to start with, if we can go back to me. I'll pause it here for just a second. This says food court promenade. So I'm just going to hold it up for the jury. Do you know anywhere where we are along this white corridor? Or could it be anywhere on that white corridor?
Specifically, I couldn't tell you exactly where along that corridor you are, but you're along that corridor.
Okay. And I'm going to stop it. Oh, maybe a little farther. This person right here, we're going to see in some of our other videos, wearing a Dan Marino Miami Dolphins jersey. You probably know that, but for ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's the person that we're trying to follow. Is that accurate? Or do you know?
I do not know.
Okay. Now we have another camera view of this long hallway. From this, can you tell generally where in that hallway it is, or once again, we're just somewhere on that white hallway?
Somewhere along that white hallway.
And, well, he just flashed.
That
So let me stop it here. On these VHS tapes, cameras would flash between different hallways.
that technology was in effect during that time frame.
Called multiplex back in those days.
Correct.
So sometimes we jump from camera view, trying to capture what we're trying to capture.
Correct.
We can see the 13 on this jersey right here with the gentleman walking behind him. Now I'm going to take you to 115B. I don't know why it did that. All right, we're going to use a different program so we don't watch it sideways. And I'll turn my volume off because there's no volume. Now this is that elevator core that we saw. Please switch over to me for a second.
Over to you? You mean the dot cam?
Yeah. So as opposed to those other views that were somewhere in here, now we're down in the middle of these four, and there's a tree in the middle of these four.
Correct.
Is that tree still there?
No.
And unlike the other camera, this one is a movable camera that goes back and forth.
Correct.
Go back to you.
Yeah. So this one starts at 2043 or so, and I'm going to jump forward to about 2047. This is just people walking through that elevator area, correct?
Correct.
Close enough. We'll start at 2046-33. Stop it just here for a second to orient everybody. So the camera, is it being operated manually by a cameraman so he can stop it on something that he's looking at?
He can stop it at a location, but that movement that you saw was just the camera in rotation, just scanning the area.
But if it now stops and focuses on someone, there's someone in the control room that is able to stop and go, hey, something's going on. And,
Yes.
okay. The gentlemen in white shirts, are they security guards, and the gentlemen in tan shirts, Metro Police?
Yes, sir.
Pause it there for a second. Once again, it appears that the victim of the beating was wearing that 13 Merino shirt.
Yes, sir.
Stuff is about 2055 or so. And then our final view, this may seem somewhat obvious, but I'm going to give you this when you watch the cameras. After we're done, I'm going to ask you generally where those people that we see leaving the area of the elevator after the fight, where they go. This is 115C. So is that the main casino floor outside the elevators?
Correct.
leads out to?
The lion entrance? Right.
Is that anywhere near the ballet?
That's the. I'm sorry, I was confused. Out to the hotel registration area, and then out to the Porte Cochere.
And do you know whether or not back in '96 there was a ballet there or not?
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't know if there was an exact ballet or what it was called at the time.
Thank you, sir. Judge, I pass the witness.
Mr. Sim, cross-examination.
Thank you, Honor. Sir, you are an investigator with the MGM, correct?
MGM Resorts, the whole company.
So it would be MGM as well as the other properties that are on the ship?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're more than just yourself doing the investigations?
Correct.
Okay. May I have that document? May I approach on it?
Yeah.
I'm going to publish this again for the jury. State's Exhibit number 44. All right. A couple questions. As the investigator or a investigator, how long have you been doing that line of work for?
14 years?
Did you have any previous law enforcement experience before you became an investigator for MGM?
No.
And then with regards to your training as an investigator for the MGM, are you trained in how to do an investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be something that would be not necessarily law enforcement, but it would just be to protect the properties that MGM owns.
Yes.
Okay. So with regards to the training that you have, is one of the things that you do in terms of training, learning how to write proper reports?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us why that's important?
Documentation for future reference. You're time stamping an event in that moment that you are investigating it.
And fair to say that with regards to report writing, it helps you later refresh your recollection if you're ever unlucky enough to be sitting in this chair facing towards these people, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In this case, you were asked to retrieve this video that was what we've all seen right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you have to write a report for that?
No.
Now, you had shared with us earlier that you had reviewed the videos. Anything about the review of the videos that would have required you to put it into a report?
No.
Okay. And you were going to, I must have cut you off. You were going to say something. Did you want to finish?
I did not, like you said that I provided this video.
Yes.
I did not provide this video.
Okay. So, and once again, we want to make sure that we're accurate, right? So what is your role in this whole thing and what you did here?
The video that we all reviewed, to be able to say that it's MGM Grand's video, that's MGM Grand's location, and whatever you guys want to talk about inside of the video.
Right. So in terms of you verifying it, was it just you looking at the video and saying, yes, that's the casino floor of the MGM?
Yes.
In terms of the date and time, for instance, you're just relying on what's date stamped and timed on the actual video that you watched, right?
Yes.
I mean, you don't have any other way of verifying any of the time and date in this case outside of what's time stamped on the video, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's not a trick question. I just
Okay.
want to make sure it's clear. Yeah, you're good. But in terms of the case itself, was there an internal number that was assigned by the MGM property specifically as to this event in September of 2000 or 1996?
I don't know that answer.
So when you were asked to review the videos, do you know if there were any reports that were written by MGM Security or MGM investigators like yourself on September 7th, 1996 with regard to this event?
I don't know that answer.
Now, in addition to that, you were asked to look through the video. Were you ever asked to locate anyone based upon the video that you saw in this case?
No.
All right. And the way the surveillance worked back then, right? I'm assuming you weren't. That was 14 years ago, so that would have been you were there in 2012.
Technically, I got hired in 2010.
2010. All right. So this is another, take a step back, another 14 years prior to you working there. We heard testimony that the recording system was all VHS based.
Yes.
If you could describe for the jury, right? So you have a control room, I'm assuming, with all these monitors that are on there.
Yes, sir.
And there's multiple people that are probably looking at different quadrants or areas of the casino.
They're looking at different monitors. Yes, sir.
Okay, and some of them are concerned with, like, say, cheating on the tables and that kind of thing, right?
That is a different team altogether.
I see.
You have your security team and you have your gaming surveillance team.
I see. So as a security team, you're just tasked with safety on the premises.
Correct.
Okay. And so in this case, when those cameras are going around, they're going around automatically until such time as somebody in the control room looks and says, "Oh, there's something going on right here," and then manually focuses the camera over there.
Some of the cameras, yes.
Okay. And even if the person in the room is not seeing it, sometimes they'll get a call from security saying, "Hey, we've got a situation over by the elevator banks," and then that would draw someone's attention to that monitor and move the camera over to that area.
Yes, sir.
Now, is the person that's operating the camera at that point in direct contact with the security team that is down below, like in this case, in the elevator area?
Yes, sir.
So they would be communicating back and forth about whatever it is that would be going on that would be helpful for everybody to know.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in this particular case, you have obviously a lot of people on the property.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you're too young for this, but I mean, this was fight night, right? Mike Tyson against Bruce Seldon.
Yes, sir.
Is that typical? Like, is that a typical amount of people on the MGM property?
In my experience, yes, that's a typical of fight night that you would have.
Right. So nowadays it's UFC or some type of championship thing with somebody, I don't know. But once again, championship level sort of thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Not an everyday.
Not an everyday thing.
All right. And obviously there's a ton of people that are there. We see at some point the group that attacked the individual run.
Yes,
and
sir.
they run out of the area. And I want to make sure the jury understands. So going back here to State's Exhibit number 144, the area where the attack happens is right here. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And this is right next to it. It just says elevator core, right?
Yes, sir.
Now we talked a little bit about where they exited, and you had mentioned somewhere, but I just want to make sure I'm clear as to where that would have been. Can you tell the jury where they exited?
From what I observed, it.
Sir, just to let you know, you could actually take that mouse that's right there and just move it around.
Can't when he's on the dock cam.
They
All right,
changed
Donna
it.
pointed out.
Usually they can, but
All right. Just go ahead and just describe it, and I'll just point it out.
He appears to have traveled initially after the altercation. He appears to travel north up into the casino area, around that area, and then from the description, it looks like he comes back south and then turns to the
approach that screen and point.
Oh, thank you, Madam Clerk. Yes, please. Could you just?
Just talk loudly while you're over there.
yeah, you can get up and just point it out on that big screen if you want.
Sorry about that. I should have done that.
The altercation occurs in the elevator core. It appears that he travels up through this location on the casino floor, and then turns here, and then comes back down, And it appears that he goes, I would have to watch it again. I'm a little confused on the exact route. There's only two routes. He either went out the Port of Kashur or went out the line entrance. But I'd have to watch it one more time to be able to confirm that.
If we could ask the state to be so kind as to replay that particular video back for the witness.
She needs to put it back on me.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And once again, this would be 115C as in Charlie. Did that help?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Let's show this to the jury then. Put this back up if you want to go on.
Yes, sir.
Deep and away from me for a second. Showing you again States Exhibit 44. Can you explain to the jury the path that was taken?
Initially, it starts in the elevator core. They exit the elevator core. They enter the casino floor. They come down. They pass the cage. They pass the Emerald City, and then they're out the line entrance.
All right, and for the record, the line entrance is on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Tropicana?
Correct.
Thank you. Now, with regards to how we're able to determine this, obviously it's we're looking at this particular map here, and there's names of certain parts on here. Did that help you in terms of seeing where the camera locations were?
Yes.
As well as just looking and seeing that there was a casino cage and there was, you were able to determine just based upon that where everything was.
Correct.
Okay. Now, looking at the map again as well, can you point out for us the number of cafes that's located on the property? Would reading the actual thing help you? 'Cause the resolution-
Yes, I think it would have. You want the number of cafes, sir?
Yeah, just tell me how many cafes are on the map.
1, 2, 3. Three.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm the coach.
Oh, of course. You may move freely.
Thank you. Showing you again for the jury 144. If you can just get up and point to the map in terms of where the cafes are on property in 1996 for us, please.
You have the Coyote Cafe, this video, I'm not sure, coffee shop, and I believe this is also a gourmet coffee stand.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, in terms of the number of people moving through the casino, obviously very excited in terms of who they think is going through the casino, would that have been something that would have been unnoticed by anyone?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Seems like a weird question, right? But the idea behind it is that there are so many people moving through that casino. Is MGM built in such a way where you wouldn't notice that, the noise or the bustle or anything like that?
Yes.
It is
You
built that
wouldn't,
way.
no, you wouldn't notice it.
And in terms of the number of people that are going through there at that particular time, you have camera angles, right? And they're showing us where these people are going, right?
Yes.
So outside of the casino, going back down here to the bottom of 144, were there any camera angles out here in the line entrance to help us see where the individuals left and what direction they went to?
Not that I'm aware of.
And fair enough that there is actually cameras that are outside the property as well to protect the MGM property, right?
Generally, yes. I don't know what it was at this time.
Sure, and I'm not trying to pin you down, but the idea behind it would be, even now, for instance, there would be surveillance cameras to help protect the property.
Correct.
Now, directing your attention over here to, you had mentioned this before, what is this called here? I don't,
The Porta Cashier,
okay, what is that?
it's a drop-off, pickup, a taxi line, limo service. It's basically everything for the guests arriving to the property.
Arrive and leaving at the same time?
Yes.
Okay. And fair enough, once again, there should have been or would have been cameras as far as you would believe in the hotel registration area as well as this Porta Sure.
Porta Cashier, yes, sir.
Thank you, Kashur. There would have been cameras there, at least now there are.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do you know what MGM's policy is with regards to events that occur on property where police officers request video surveillance to be captured?
Yes, I know the policy.
Okay, what is the policy?
The policy when police request video is they submit a what we call an admin subpoena with the date, time, and kind of information that they're requesting, and then a member of either security surveillance or gaming surveillance will put that video onto a portable drive of some sort and provide it to the police.
Right. And with regards to that video surveillance, is it the entire property?
No.
Okay. What typically is requested of the police officers and what's typically protected or is saved by MGM?
Situations dictate, but whatever they're initially requesting, if they're looking for a physical altercation, that's what they're going to get is the physical altercation. We We don't provide, you know, a 24-hour like movement of the persons. It depends on what they're requesting.
Right. So in this particular guard, you have an individual dressed in a Dan Marino jersey that at some point leaves the elevator area. Recall that?
Yes.
Now, do you know if there was ever a request to follow that individual through the casino and maybe off the casino premises just because he had been involved in an altercation with some other people?
I'm not aware of any request.
You don't have no further questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Redirect, Mr. Duffy.
Just briefly. You mentioned one, you didn't know if this was 1996 or not, correct?
Correct.
You also said you weren't sure whether or not there was a report written by security.
Correct.
Let me show you. Does that document generally look familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And that indicates the accuracy of the times on the, generally speaking, on the video that we have.
Yes, sir.
And I want to read that description to yourself. And there's more. But,
Yes, sir.
Based upon reading that, are you comfortable that the Coyote Cafe was present in 1996?
Yes.
And the report, does it indicate that Orlando Anderson was trying to, this person in the 13 was attempting to push past security into this cafe when he was attacked?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Any recross based on that, Mr. Sanders?
And I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your last name.
Ingram.
Ingram. Mr. Ingram, the report that you just read, did you author that report?
No.
Now, in terms of the report, fair to say the report is basically reflecting what's found on the videos that's been provided by the state.
I'm sorry, I lost track. What?
The videos that we watched earlier, is that what's in the report?
Yes.
So, in essence, the jury can see the report for them, or see the videos for themselves to determine what was happening in terms of actions and what people were doing, right?
I don't know if that's completely accurate. There are things that are in report that are written by like eyewitness that you can't see on video.
Sure. Now, the report itself, do you know who wrote it?
I do not.
Do you know if that person had the same training and experience that you have here today talking to this jury?
I do not.
And in terms of the report itself, is it a standard report that would have been drafted back in those days?
Yes, sir.
All right. And there would have been somebody who would have supervised that report, I would assume, and reviewed it?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who it is in this document?
Who the
The
supervisor?
supervisor is.
I don't know who the manager at the time was.
All right. Once again, not you. You were 12, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Just briefly. Mr. Sam said that only what was seen on the video is in this report, but there's actually a description of what what the person in number 13 was doing before we could see it in video if you read the first.
Yes, he. Yes, sir.
This is a document that appears to be authored by somebody who was present and confronting Mr. Anderson from security as he was trying to get into the Coyote Cafe when he was attacked, and then we see on video kind of the remnants of that attack, but not the beginning of it,
Your
correct?
Honor, I'm sorry. I'm just going to object to that question.
Well, he opened the door with that question by
Leading?
saying,
What's your response on leading?
"Oh, as the leading? Oh, okay. Read the first 4 lines of the report. I'll rephrase my
Okay,
question.
so it's sustained. You may rephrase.
Read the beginning of the report."
On Sunday, August 7th, 1996, at approximately 8:50 p.m., this officer was in the elevator core when I noticed a BMA wearing a sports jersey force his way past the officers.
Your Honor, at this particular point, I'm going to object as this is hearsay, and there's no exception to this particular statement being brought in.
Okay, your response on that one?
2 things. 1, he opened the door by claiming this report only says it's that. 2, it's a report generated at the time by the person who witnessed it, and it is a record of the MGM, from MGM in 1996, all of which would qualify for admissibility.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure. All right, overruled. This statement is not being offered for its truth. Instead, it's being offered to rebut the idea that the only thing that the report contains is viewable on the video, and the jury is to consider it for such.
If you could just, I guess, start over. Start at the beginning there and stop at the point you get to this person in the jersey getting attacked.
On Sunday, August 7th of 1996, at approximately 8:50 p.m., this officer was in the elevator core when I noticed a BMA wearing a sports jersey force his way past the officers. I can't read the first name, Muniz Roberts, at the North Key checkpoint by Coyote Cafe. The unidentified BMA was questioned by myself and Officer. Your screen went black.
Oh, sorry. I love technology.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, may we approach again while Mr. Jacques was working on technology?
With Mr. Paul? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead. I think you were an officer whose name you couldn't quite figure out.
The unidentified BNL was questioned by myself and Officer Gamba on the side of Coyote Cafe. The BMA was very uncooperative on answering our questions. While questioning the BMA, he continually kept looking over his shoulder towards the North Key checkpoint. It was seconds thereafter when I noticed a large group of BMAs force their way through the North Key checkpoint The large group of BMAs, approximately 20, were running right in our directions. As they got close to, when they got close to the BMA that was being questioned, started to run south towards the elevator core. Around 5 or 6 BMAs from the group caught up with the single BMA, grabbed him, punched him, and knocked him to the.
That's probably far enough.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I have no more questions.
Okay, Mr. Sam, anything else based on that? I guess that'd be recross.
No, Your Honor, but with regards to my discussions with the state, I'm going to move for the admission of that particular page that was read into the record.
Any objection by the state?
I don't. There's a second page. You want to read it all first and then make a decision as it's the first page or both pages?
Is it bad, the second page?
At least page 1 will be admitted. Page 2 is still up in the air. But would that be next in line for the state, or do you want it as defense exhibit, Mr. Sampson?
This will be defense exhibit B, Your Honor.
Okay, so that'll be admitted as defense exhibit B. We'll hold tight to see if you want 1 or 2 pages. How many pages?
Potentially 2, but right now,
Okay,
yeah.
let my clerk know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So nothing further.
Nothing further to do.
Any questions from the jury for Mr. Ingram? We do have at least 1. Okay, can I have the parties approach? All right, a question from one of our jurors. Do you know where the person or officer who wrote the report at MGM from the security team witnessed the person in the Jersey by Coyote Cafe?
Can you restate that for me one more time?
I can try, or I can read it again.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is the officer or person who wrote the report at MGM from the security team witnessing the person in the Jersey by Coyote Cafe?
Oh, on the map, it's located, the entrance, the specific entrance, whether it's,
You think maybe you should stand up and do it on the big ones?
Yes,
so you can
ma'am.
understand that.
So from what I could read, the entrance into the cafe is located here. To the Coyote Cafe, so this would be where the initial stop and talk by the security personnel would have occurred at.
And do you know where the person who wrote the report was seeing that person in the Jersey from?
From that specific location. So he or she, I'm not sure the exact person, but the security describes that they're at the position and someone tries to push past, in which case they approach and stop and talk at the entrance of the cafe itself.
Okay. And then as to the second part of that question, I'm not going to ask because that's not something that he would know why that decision was made. State, did you want any follow-up based on that question?
You didn't recognize the name of the author of that particular report, correct?
Correct.
And you have no idea what happened to that person in the last 30 years in their lives, whether they're alive, dead, locatable, anything like that.
No knowledge.
Thank you.
Mr. Sam?
Yes, Your Honor, just a couple more quick points. So I want to be sure I'm clear. Did the MGM during that time period have those booths set up where you couldn't go to the elevators unless you had a room key or something? Is that what we're talking about in terms of a checkpoint?
The checkpoint is, it's not a physical location as much as it's a security position where they would check room keys to get into an area.
So if the report is saying someone was trying to push through, they're trying to go past that area into the elevator area? I mean, where are they going?
That's the direction that he travels. The security report states he tries to get into the cafe, and then when he's approached by the large group of males, he runs towards that checkpoint. So he's trying to get out or through the elevator core down into or wherever he decides he's trying to go. But that's the checkpoint. That little looks like a telephone next. Correct. That's where he's trying to get.
All right. So, but the report's kind of weird, right? Because it's not saying that he's trying to go into the Coyote Cafe. He's actually trying to go through a checkpoint or an area. I think that's what you read, right?
I would have to reread it again, but I believe he tried to get into Coyote Cafe first.
Okay, so he's going, there's a ton of people, they're all leaving the fight, and for some reason, him going into the Coyote Cafe causes security to go after him?
If it's closed or if it's blocked for a private party, I'm not exactly sure, honestly, why they would do it.
I see. So, I mean, but outside of that, your idea as to why the Coyote Cafe would not be open to this particular individual in the Merino jersey would have been because it's closed for a private function or closed completely.
Correct.
Okay. No further questions, John.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Ingram, you are excused at this time.
Sorry, Judge, can I have one follow-up to that?
Oh, okay.
Or the cafe's overcrowded and they're stopping people from going in.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, now you're free to go.
Thank you, Ben.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time we're going to take a 10-minute restroom break. During the recess, you are admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected to the trial, or read, watch, or listen to any report or commentary on the trial of any person connected to this case by any medium of information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, the internet, and radio, or form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until the case is submitted to you. We'll see you guys back here at 11:15. Please rise for the jury. Jury is exited the room. Anything we need to address outside the presence?
Well, I'll work with the state with regards to the last proposed defense exhibit.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And then let my clerk know what pages you wanted in it, or give it to her, actually.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have to print that out, I guess. We'll be in recess. Okay, back on record in C versus Davis, C377407. Anything we need to address before bringing the jury back in?
Hang on.
Let's bring them in. Please rise.
Rise for the jury.
Do the parties stipulate to the presence of the jury?
Yes, sure.
You may all be seated. State, you may call your next witness.
Kenneth Rios.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And sir, if you please state your full name and then spell it for the record.
Kenneth Rios, Kennethrios.
Thank you, Mr. Rios. Mr. DiGiacomo, you may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Sir, how did you used to be employed?
I was employed as I retired as a Las Vegas sergeant for Las Vegas Metro Police.
And how long were you with Metro?
28 years.
And when did you start?
April 17th, 1990.
You direct your attention to September 7th of 1996 at about 9 p.m.-ish in that area. Where were you working?
I was working as uniform patrol at the MGM Hotel.
At that time, did you learn of a situation that occurred in the elevator section of the MGM?
Yes, I did.
And did you respond over to that location?
Yes, I did.
And did you have contact with an individual wearing a Dan Marino number 13 jersey?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to play a little video for you. Can we go back, Thomas?
And this is 115B. And, I got to play it with the other program. I don't know why. I'm going to back up just a little bit here. When you come in. Start it right about here. You let us know when you see yourself.
I see myself.
All right. And which of the three officers we have on scene there are you?
The one with the dark hair, my back, well, it was dark back then. My back is towards the camera facing the gentleman that has the Merino jersey on.
Eventually, if we watch this video, you have a conversation with this individual, correct?
Yes, I did.
And at that time, did you ask him to identify himself?
Yes, I did.
How did he identify himself?
He identified himself through a California driver's license, which security had in their possession and gave to me.
Back then, this is just a fight call and he's the victim, correct?
We thought he was a victim, yes.
And so, did you talk to him about whether or not he wished to press charges or be involved. Describe that for us.
Yes, I asked him first if he needed medical assistance, and he refused. He said he was fine. I then asked him what happened, and he told me basically that a couple of guys that he didn't know jumped him. And once again, I asked him if he needed medical. He said no. I asked if he wanted to file a report, and he said no.
At that point, was he released and free to go on his way?
Yes, he was.
Later on that evening, did you learn about a shooting involving Tupac Shakur?
Yes, I did.
And then were you asked to then draft a report as to what your interaction was with Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I was.
And at that time, what name did you remember for Mr. Anderson?
It was Orlando. I remember his first name.
Is it anything unusual that when a victim gets attacked and doesn't want to press charges or write a report, for you not to have written a report that night?
No, it's not. Basically, if you don't have a victim, you don't have a crime, as we put it, which isn't necessarily true. You always have a crime. But if you don't have a victim, the chances of prosecution, you won't get any information, and so we don't take a report if the victim refuses.
It's only afterwards, the incident that occurs a couple hours later, you then go back from memory and write down what you recall from this incident.
Yes, I did.
And you were able to remember his first name as Orlando.
Yes.
Nothing further.
Cross, Mr. Sims?
Mr. Rios,
Yes, sir.
did you review anything in your preparation for your testimony here today?
Yes, I did.
What did you review?
I reviewed my officer's report. I reviewed my memory. I reviewed also the last statement that I gave, I believe, was to the grand jury a few years ago.
Okay. And I would assume that prior to your testimony to the grand jury, you reviewed your officer's report back then even,
Yes, I did.
prior to testifying in front of the grand jury?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Make sure we're clear here. You wrote that report. That's in the normal course of your duties as a police officer.
Yes, sir.
No exception to in terms of you conducting your business as a police officer that you don't ever write a report.
No, there's some instances where I may not write a report.
Sure. Can you tell us what those instances are?
Not offhand, because it's been so long. You don't write a report for everything that you do. Everything's recorded in some way through the computer or through dispatch, I'm sure. But to sit down and write a formalized report on all my actions, no.
So in terms of all your actions, are you saying, like, for instance, if you get up out of your cubicle and you go into your sergeant's office to talk about fantasy football, oh, no, that wasn't been back then, talk about the game between the Bears and the, Chargers, we're not talking about that kind of documentation, right?
Right, I would never talk about the Bears, but yes.
Okay. And there we go. And in terms of the way, though, you would handle, like, for instance, if you're doing an investigation, or in this case, you're part of an incident that occurs, a report would be drafted for something like this.
Yes and no. It would just depend. It would depend, it would depend on some factors. In this case, there was no victim. He refused any kind of help. But it was worth noting because of his involvement.
Yeah. And so the state had asked you a question specifically as to when you wrote your report. You wrote it after you got off of this particular shift. Is that when you wrote your report?
I don't recall when I wrote it, but I'm sure that my officer's report would reflect that time. But I know I didn't write it immediately after.
All right. And in terms of your knowledge that Tupac Shakur had just been shot, your testimony to the jury is that you had understood at that point that potentially a person by the name of Orlando may have been something to do with that particular case.
I don't recall if that was the reason why I wrote the report, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, because I'm a little curious. Like, how do you, there's a shooting of Tupac Shakur. How do you, is it because you heard that there's a shooting up at Tupac Shakur that you go, wait a minute, there was an incident that occurred with Tupac on property? Is that how we get to this point?
Back then, I don't recall if that was the process that I went through to make the report. I don't believe so. I believe that there was some other officers that probably told me and suggested that I write a report because of his possible involvement.
Right. So news goes out throughout the valley. Tupac has been shot, and then you're advised, hey, there was something happening where Tupac, just capture whatever it is that you remember. Right.
I don't recall that happening that way, but for most intents purposes.
Right. Now, in terms of your report and you writing it, you're still, I mean, you're still on property when you hear that this incident had occurred with Tupac Shakur.
I don't recall where I was at the time.
Okay. Would you have ever called back to the MGM and say, hey, capture more video of, this particular incident and the guy with the Merino jersey, the night of the shooting, to help them with whatever investigation could be out there? Did you do that?
Not that I recall, no.
Do you know of anyone else among the 3 officers that were there, or any other officers would have done something like that?
I have no idea.
Okay. Maybe they're all Bears fans, and that's the reason why they didn't do that.
It could be.
Yep. Let me ask you this, though. In terms of your this particular night, extra officers show up as overtime. They work overtime. Is that what this is?
Yes, sir.
All right. And they're doing it for a special event, right?
Yes, sir.
And in this case, this special event was the Tyson fight.
Yes, sir.
All right. In terms of the amount of people in Las Vegas, I would imagine there would have been a lot.
A lot of people?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We see video showing, obviously, a lot of people at the MGM.
Yes, sir.
And would it just be the MGM where the fight was taking place, or would that be throughout the Strip?
No, there'd be officers on other properties.
Yeah. And once again, these officers are on there because of the anticipated flow of people coming into Las Vegas for this special event.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have no further questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anything further, Mr. Jackman?
No, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for this witness? We have at least one. May I have party All right, a question from one of our jurors. After an incident like that, is it customary to not follow the people who did the assault? Is it common for everyone to stay with who you thought was the victim?
My position at that time, yes, it would be to stay with the victim because we had already radioed 2 other officers that were on scene.
Okay.
And as well as the MGM security had radioed to their officers up front. So it would have been my responsibility to stay with the victim to make sure that he wasn't in dire need of medical assistance or still wanted to file a report.
Okay. Any follow-up based on that, Mr. DeGiacomo?
No.
Mr. Samft?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect. With that, you are free to go. Mr. Rios?
Thank you.
All right. State, who's your next witness?
William Hedemeyer?
William Hedemeyer.
William.
Good morning. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, may I have a seat?
Thank you.
And sir, if you please state your full name and then spell it for the record.
It's William Heidmeyer, William William, and Heidmeyer, Heidmeyer.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, state, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Sir, back in 1996, were you working here in Las Vegas?
Yes, I was a security officer at the Maxim Hotel and Casino.
And the Maxim these days is now the Westin on the corner of Koval and Flamingo?
Correct.
And it's on the northwest corner.
Yes, northwest corner.
Actually, sometime prior to 11:17 p.m., were you engaged in an investigation with some Metro officers?
Yes, I had 2 Metro officers with me, and we were looking for stolen vehicles. There were 5 or 6 Dodge Caravans that were stolen out of our parking garage that night.
And where were you located when something unusual did happen?
Well, I was on the ramp of the 3rd floor of the parking garage on the southeast side of the property.
And while you were there, describe what you hear.
Well, the 2 officers, another security officer and I were standing around one Dodge Caravan, and we just suddenly heard a lot of gunfire. And we ran to the barrier wall that was overlooking Koval Boulevard, not Koval, Flamingo Boulevard, and that's when I witnessed what I saw.
So you hear a bunch of shots. Do you have any idea how many you heard?
It sounded like a lot.
1 volley, 2 volleys?
3 volleys.
3 volleys.
Yes.
Heard. And when you say a lot, I mean, to some people, can you put any sort of number on it?
I had 3 to 4, maybe even 5 each volley. It was a series of pops.
Somewhere between 9 and 15 shots in a series.
Something like that.
You said after the shots fired, you guys ran to the retaining wall.
Yes.
I assume you ducked for cover at first.
No, because I was armed, so I was leaning over the retaining wall to see what I could see.
And when you look over the wall, what do you see?
I see a line of vehicles in the left straight lane on Flamingo heading east, and there's several vehicles. There was a white Dodge Stratus at the front, a black BMW behind it, another dark car, and I believe another car, and then there was a white Chevy Suburban behind that, and several more cars.
Do you see anybody outside of those vehicles?
Yeah, there were a number of people standing outside of the vehicles in the traffic lanes.
And do you see any of them armed?
One gentleman was armed, one black male adult, very young, well-dressed. He was wearing a very bright white 3/4 sleeve shirt, black pants, and a black dress vest.
And at the time that you see him, is he firing his weapon?
No, he's not, but he does have the weapon in his hand. It was an automatic weapon, automatic pistol.
Semi-automatic pistol?
Yes.
And is he holding it down? Is he pointing it in a direction?
He wasn't pointing it in any direction. It was kind of just off to his side.
What do you see this caravan of cars do?
Well, I looked back because the Metro officers jumped in their cars to pursue, and then when I turned around, everyone was back in their cars again, and they made a U-turn heading west on Flamingo towards Las Vegas Boulevard.
All of the cars in the caravan?
Yes.
And so you see them make a U-turn at Koval and head back towards Las Vegas Boulevard.
Correct.
And those vehicles, you saw the 2 Metro officers you were with jump in their vehicle to give chase to that caravan.
Correct.
At the time that you're out there and you see somebody with a gun, you've just heard shots fired, is it the conclusion you originally drew that that person was your suspect?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I deduced at the time.
And based upon the officers following that caravan, that's a reasonable assumption that they deduced that as well.
Right. They asked me what direction they were going. They rolled down their windows and were asking me what direction everybody went, and so I pointed to make a right and head towards Las Vegas Boulevard.
And those officers then went after the caravan.
Correct.
Objection as to speculation.
What's your response?
Well, he watched them do it. He didn't.
Okay.
Did he testify to that? Did you watch
Lay
the
some more
officers?
foundation.
Did you watch the officers go after that caravan?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I pass the witness.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Stamp?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Heidmeyer, I'm going to show you it's been marked and admitted as State's Exhibit number
1?
1. No. Yes.
What, 1? You want 2?
Let me both. Thank you.
Closer name. More modern. You're right.
All right. I'll show you State's Exhibit number 1 here. You recognize this photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Just to get to the point, this is Las Vegas.
Yes.
All right, and I'm just more concerned right now about the actual streets themselves. Can you just show us? Actually, you know what? If you could step down out of the witness chair and just go to that screen, I'm going to have you point out for the jury where everything's at. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Can you point and show us where the Maxim Hotel is?
The Maxim Hotel, this is Cobol and that's Flamingo, would be right about here.
Let me help you out.
Yeah, right about here.
Okay, and just for the record, it looks like you're pointing in this area right here.
Well, this would be the hotel and this would be where the parking garage was. And there was parking in front of the parking garage as well.
All right, and just for the record, I'm pointing to the north part of, this would be Flamingo that I'm pointing at, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's on the north side of Flamingo, in between, what's the main streets that are in between where the property sits?
It sits on Cobol and Flamingo. The entrance to the parking garage was over here.
All right, and so that area is where the Maxim Hotel was located.
Right, but adjacent to the parking garage.
Right, and the parking garage, once again, for my edification, is where exactly, if you could just point that out for us.
Right here.
All right, so that would be on the north side of the property?
Yes.
So would that be behind where the hotel is?
No, it's beside the hotel.
Beside the hotel, okay. And that's where you were located with the 2 police officers?
Correct.
Now, you were investigating at that particular time stolen vehicles out of that garage. Did you write a report on your own with regards to what you were doing that night with the stolen vehicles? And
Actually, no, I turned that report over to my other co-officers at security because I was tied up with this incident.
Okay. I'm going to zoom in a little bit better for you here, sir, if I could. Going back again. That's hopefully more helpful. All right. So when you said that you looked over and you saw, can you explain for us again sort of where the vehicles were that you saw?
Well, the vehicles were on Flamingo heading east, and they were in, you have a left turn lane, 2 forward lanes, and a right turn lane, and the vehicles were in the farthest left center lane.
Farthest left center lane.
Correct.
Meaning that they were intending on going forward.
Correct.
They're not making that left.
No, but they ended up making a U-turn.
Sure. And once again, for our edification, this is 30 years ago, right? So you've got 3 lanes going directly east. And is that a yes?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And then you have, is it 2 lanes that are actually turn lanes to turn onto Cobol, or is it just
Actually, I believe it was 2 lanes, so it would be from the facing east, it would have been the 3rd lane that they were in. There's 2 turn lanes, 2 straight lanes, and then a right turn lane.
All right. And then with regards to the vehicles themselves, your testimony was that there was a white van of some sort, or maybe vehicle in front of the black BMW.
Yeah, it was a white Dodge Stratus.
I see. Is that a van? No, that's
No,
a car.
it's a 2-door sedan.
Okay. And then behind it is the BMW,
Yes.
and then behind it are multiple cars leading back.
Yes.
And your testimony was that you had identified a Lex. Is it a Lexus behind it?
I think it was a Lexus, I believe so.
And then another vehicle, and then a white Chevy, and then it just kept going all the way down.
Correct.
So even though we're identifying these vehicles, you don't know how many vehicles were in the procession or the.
It was several. I didn't count them at the time, but it was a good 10 vehicles.
Okay. And all those vehicles are now making a U-turn and heading back towards Las Vegas Boulevard.
Correct.
You don't see the actual shots being, someone actually pointing a gun at something and shooting something.
No, I did not.
You just heard it.
Yes.
The individual that you had identified as the person with a gun,
Yes.
did you see that individual shoot his weapon?
No.
All right, but you saw him dressed up in a relatively nice-looking sort of presentation, black
Yes.
pants.
Yes, he was well dressed.
Okay, vest and a white shirt. Okay. Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah, you can go back there. Yes.
Sit down.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. State, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Heidemeyer. You are free to go.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. State, you have one more, right? Before
Yes,
lunch?
Judge.
Okay, who's that going to be?
Dino Kelly.
You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may have a seat. And if you please state your full name and then spell it for the record.
It's Dean O'Kelly, and it's DEAN O''K-E-L-L-E-Y.
Thank you, Mr. O'Kelly. You may proceed, Mr. DeJarmo.
you.
Sir, how are you currently employed?
I'm a deputy marshal in district court with Judge Erica Mendoza.
Prior to become a deputy marshal, well, I guess you've had multiple hats. At some point, were you a Metro police officer?
Yes, I was for 20 plus years.
And approximately what year did you start?
September of 1991.
And when did you retire as a Metro officer?
July 12th of 2012.
And after July 12th of 2012, did you do something else with Metro?
I did for about almost 8.5 years. I was a cold case homicide investigator.
Now, well, let me ask you this. When did you first go to homicide?
In 2003, on July.
So on September 7th of 1996, what was your assignment?
I was a detective in the gang unit on one of the enforcement teams.
What does that mean you did for Metro? What's an enforcement team?
So the enforcement teams are dressed in greens, and we usually have 5 or 6 detectives together, and we would patrol known gang areas and come in contact with gatherings that involved gang members. And then after enforcement, I did 2 years of investigation where I investigated gang-related crimes.
Before I get to your actions on this particular evening, I want to ask you a little bit about how the process of report writing has changed at Metro over the years. You have handled your own cases since the early 2000s, but you also were a cold case investigator, which I assume that means you also have experience with years and years and years before you ever even became a police officer.
Certainly.
Was there a particular way that cases were documented up until the early to mid 2000s?
I mean, I think there's been some changes over time just because of the digital age. And, when I first went to homicide, we were still using typewriters that had the little spinning ball on there and actually typing in triplicate, those types of things. Keeping our notes, handwritten in our notebook. And then it kind of changed over time. Everything went digital, and we started keeping things on the computer.
And so when we're talking 96, there was multiple reports written by officers as they did things because there wasn't the same computerized systems we have today.
That's correct.
Modern day, is there something called a main case report or a main officer's report related to homicides?
Yes, there is.
Explain that to ladies and gentlemen.
So what we normally do, and it kind of depends on the detective themselves. I mean, you probably worked with people that have Post-its all over their desk, and it's a total wreck, and you have no idea what you're looking at, but they know where everything is, and they know how it's organized. We had detectives that were like that. Me personally, I would keep everything on what's called a case management form. So from the very beginning, from the very start of when we got a call, and we're keeping notes in a notebook, all that information go into a case management form. So I wouldn't be initially concerned with an officer's report getting started at any point, because I was using that management form each and every time we did something investigatively. If we took a phone call from, a witness, then I would document that on that form. And at some point, especially if you had somebody that was in custody, you would transfer all that information over into an organized officer's report, which would then have the title at the top. It would have the date and time and location of when the incident occurred, who's involved, who are the suspects, who are the victims, who are the witnesses, and it would be in a chronological order in an investigation. But initially, everything's kept just basically in the management form. Eventually, you want to get to the point where you put together all that information into an officer's report, and there will come a point in time where the individual detective would make the decision that the officer's report's final, right? You would get it signed off. It'd be signed off by your sergeant. It'd go into the case file, and then from that point, you would just basically be filing addendums as new information came in. You might write that information down on that management form and then do an additional officer's report. That's definitely something that I saw when I went to cold case. Some of the cases that were, 20 years old, every single step that detective did was a completely separate officer's report. So you'd get 15 officers' report in the case file. It definitely made a lot more sense to finally get to one point where we had just one officer's report covering the case.
And in your experience, is it unusual for an officer's report to be the very last thing that's generated by the detective assigned to the particular case?
No, that's not unusual at all.
I want to direct your attention back to September of 1997, and I'm going to put up really two aerials for you first of all, but I'm going to start with State's Exhibit number 1. Can we go back to me? That appears to be an aerial of Las Vegas Valley.
Yes.
And it's clearly more modern than 1996 because you can see T-Mobile over here and some other things. Is that correct?
Quite a bit different today, yes, that's true.
And then I'm going to go back and show State's Exhibit number 2. This is a much earlier rendition of the Las Vegas Valley because T-Mobile's not there. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. And identified on State's Exhibit number 2 is where the I can't move. I can move the mouse away. Where it says Monte Carlo, that's generally where the Park MGM is today.
That's correct.
And at the time, back in 1996, there was a club called the 662 Club on Flamingo. Is that correct?
Yes, very familiar with it.
And is that referenced in State's Exhibit number 2 as well?
It is.
And is that generally the location where it's at?
Correct.
So now I want to jump back to 1. At about 11:17 p.m. On September 7th of 1996, where were you?
We were conducting enforcement activity kind of northeast of the location of Koval and Flamingo.
And did something catch your attention?
Yes. As we were out with a couple, 2-3 gang members, we heard over the radio an officer rather excited, certainly under a stressful situation, reporting shots being fired and requesting a code red on the radio. We weren't very far away, so we cut the guys loose that we were with, got in our vehicles, and with lights and siren, we went over to respond to the area of the Maxim Hotel.
When an officer calls out code red, what does that mean? What is he trying to do?
The code red is so that no other radio traffic is coming across except for what those officers are going through. So it's trying to keep the radio traffic to a minimum So we didn't even announce that we were en route. That's not important for dispatch or really anybody else to know that we were on our way, because we're waiting for updates from that officer or from the officers involved. So we stay off the radio. It's a sacred thing. You don't break the code red unless you really have to get on the radio.
And where do you respond to?
We responded to the intersection of Koval and Flamingo right there at the Maxim Hotel. Now it's called the Westin. But we went into the parking lot on the south side of the Maxim, and where we saw a patrol unit.
At some point, do you walk out onto Flamingo? Well, let me ask you this. When you first arrive, is there traffic still driving eastbound on Flamingo?
Yes, I mean, nothing's changed so far as traffic at that point, because whatever had happened was several minutes before that. So now people are still just driving by. We got to the parking lot. My Sergeant Cindy West, had inquired as to where the shots had come from, and we were able to look out into the street there on Flamingo, just west of Koval, and I saw in the headlights just little glints of light and recognized that. I spent plenty of time on a firing range, and I know what brass looks like on the ground. So we were able to determine where several cartridge cases were located in the street west of Koval on Flamingo.
I'm going to approach and show you State's Proposed Exhibit 34 to 41. As you look through those, I'm going to grab something from the clerk. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And how do you recognize those?
When we spotted the cartridge cases in the street, at the time my enforcement vehicle was in a Chevy van, and we had a whole bunch of cones. So as we located the cartridge cases there on the roadway, we took a bunch of cones out of my vehicle and actually placed them, in the photographs you'll see it a little bit different, but we placed the cones on top of or over the cartridge cases, so the cones protected where they were located, because you could even see there was at least, I know one for sure, maybe more, that had already been run over by traffic, so it was a little bit mangled. So we protected the crime scene, and we also popped a couple of flares on the north side of the number 3 travel lane where the cartridge cases are located.
And this fairly, State's Exhibits 34 through 41 fairly and accurately represent that situation.
Yes, it is.
Move to admit.
No objection, Your Honor.
So admit it?
So I'm going to put up 34. And can you just describe for us what we're looking at?
So you can see the cartridge cases are kind of straddling the 2 lanes.
Can I stop you for a second, Mr. O'Kelly?
Yes.
There's a mouse sitting right there. Don't click it. Just it'll freeze up the whole system, but you can use it as a pointer.
Exactly. So these 2 cones that we set up here were more or less to protect where the cartridge cases were located. These other cones are covering the actual cartridge cases in the roadway. The one that's closest to us in this picture is a bullet fragment. It was the furthest away from Koval. And then the other cones are all spent cartridge cases, Winchester, Smith & Wesson 40 caliber cartridge cases.
Do you know a person by the name of Dan Ford?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Dan?
Dan Ford is a senior crime scene analyst that I worked with quite a bit. We started on the department right around the same time. And ran into him several times on cases that I worked with in the gang unit investigations. We also utilized him on the RICO task force that I was on for a couple of years. And then he responded countless homicide investigations during my career.
eventually, does Mr. Ford leave the crime scene that was at Harmon and Las Vegas Boulevard and come, and is he the person that takes these pictures and winds up collecting these items?
Yes, he is. Fortunately, Dan was already dispatched to the area of the Maxim for the patrol units that had called out on the radio the shots that were fired. They were taking a report for damaged vehicles that were there, and Dan had already been dispatched to that. So he wasn't far away when the shots rang out, and he was requested to come to that scene.
Sitting there in front of you is state's proposed exhibit 129. Looking at the state's proposed exhibit number 129, do you recognize what that item is?
Yes, I do. I've seen and reviewed the handwritten evidence inventory that was authored by Dan Ford. I can see that that's his handwriting. It's also his initials and P number that are on the package for the Winchester cartridge cases.
And then there's a red seal on the back of here. That would have been placed on by Mr. Ford, correct?
The red seal is not, so it's, oh, it is marked up here at the top for his P number. This doesn't look, I don't know, oh, that he wrote the date on that. So 9/7 of 96. So he initialed in the top corner and then put the date down in the bottom corner, yes.
And all these blue seals are the times that the forensic lab has opened this package in order to look at these items and potentially do some testing.
That's correct. But I do remember from the evidence inventory that Dan had indicated that these cartridge cases were checked for fingerprints at the time with negative results.
So I'm going to have, well, I guess I'll move to admit 129, Judge.
No objection.
Okay, so admit it.
I'm going to have you cut this not along a seal if there's a place left to
Is
do
there a
it.
place?
I think if we cut right along there, we can pull those items out.
Oh, yeah, down here at the bottom I can. I don't think we have to go too far. Let's do that.
And we just pull those items out. And these, well, they will eventually be marked 129 G, well, A through G, but I'm going to show you this one, which has a 14 on the top of it. And you said you remember at least one of them was mangled.
This one's flattened on the opening opposite of the headstand. It's flattened, so it's been run over.
And there appears to be at least one more of these that has some damage to it. And several of them have damage to them. Is that correct?
They're definitely misshapen. A couple of them are. This is actually the closest that I've seen them, because when we came out, we just put the cones right over the top of them, didn't mess with them at all. So I'm able to now look at even the primary impacts, which is significant.
Why is that significant?
Because a Glock pistol has a rectangular opening for the firing pin. It's vertically oriented on the front of the bolt face for a Glock pistol, and you can tell by looking at the primer impact that that's roughly the shape of the impact on the primer.
So that suggests to you that the weapon was a Glock 40.
That's correct.
Now, Detective, or I guess it's Mr. O'Kelly now.
Detective retired. I don't know. Deputy Marshal.
Yeah, Deputy Marshal, there you go. While you're at the scene, are you getting updates on the radio as to potential suspect vehicles that you should be looking for?
Periodically, again, that code red is in effect for quite a while, so there's not a lot of radio traffic that was going on. The call came in initiating the code red at 11:17, we were short distance away, and we went code. Well, we ran code, so we did lights and siren. It didn't take us very long to get there. I know that Sergeant West waited until there was a complete lull in the radio traffic and announced that we were en route and arrived at the same time, and I believe that was at 11:26. We had been there before that, so we were there before 11:20. We were already there at the scene. So at about a little bit past 11:30, we got an update on the rough description of a light-colored Cadillac. I know at some point on the CAD report it said late 90s. It had to be late 80s, right? This is 96. And there was also some indication that it was in good condition, which would say that it was an older vehicle than late 90s, right? So we were looking for a light-colored, possibly white Cadillac with two black male occupants. And there was a report that it was northbound on Audrey, which now Audrey Lane is the Link, right? It's the Link Lane. So it's on the west side of the Maxim going north. There was some report that possibly that's where the suspect vehicle had gone.
So initial reports is light color Cadillac, last seen northbound on Audrey.
Right, with two black males at that point.
Do you wind up getting updates throughout the evening as to the vehicle you're looking for?
We did. I'd say it was about an hour or so, about 1:45 maybe, right around that time, that we got an update that we were looking for that same white Cadillac in good condition, but potentially occupied now by four black males, and was southbound on Koval. That later made a little bit more sense to us, especially that we were out on the eastbound lanes of Koval, right just short of the intersection, and that the Cadillac had to have been to the south of the BMW, and it made more sense that they would have made a right turn. So that definitely clicked when we were told they were southbound on Koval.
Does there come a point in time when you do what's known as an ATL or attempt to locate that particular vehicle?
Yes. Thankfully, because Dan Ford was not too far away, we were able to get relieved from our protection of the crime scene where the cartridge cases were located. And I think we cleared exactly an hour after the initial code red was called. And that was the first thing that we did was we went south on Koval. We checked areas that we frequented in the gang unit, looking for potentially really any light-colored Cadillac. I mean, the kind of the yellowish lights that we have in town, the street lights that they use for low, so it's not too much light in town. Those can kind of throw you off on color. So we were looking for any light-colored Cadillac.
We'll put back up State's Exhibit 1. During all this time period that you and your partner ATL'd for this white Cadillac, did you ever drive into the parking lot of the carriage house?
No, I can say that in my 35 years, I've never been in the carriage house.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, cross-examination, Mr. Sam.
Sorry, sir, what's your last name again?
O'Kelly, O''K-E-L-L-E-Y.
Mr. Kelly, thank you for being here today. Your testimony, obviously, I would imagine before you were here, you probably reviewed your reports, whatever it is you wrote during that time period.
I didn't write any.
Okay.
Certainly, even after I went to homicide, I wasn't involved in the investigation for this case. I did review the CAD report, the computer-aided dispatch report, noting those times. I don't have that great a memory, so I'm going to have to tell you that. And that handwritten evidence inventory by Dan Ford. I have both copies right here in my notebook.
I see. So at the time you retired as a homicide detective?
I did.
And then at that point, you came back to work as in the cold case unit as an investigator.
I did, yes.
All right. Now, a couple things. First of all, when you retired as a detective with homicide, were there any outstanding reports that you had not drafted when you left?
I can tell you that and people love me, so they got a limousine and we had a big party. So as there was a limousine out in front of headquarters at 400 Martin Luther King, I was typing the last officer's report that I needed to personally finish. I was leaving a partner behind, whose name is also Dean, so he was able to, tie up any of the cases that we had at that point. But I would say there were, but the ones that I knew I needed to get done before I left, I got done.
And the reason why you prioritized those ones is because I would imagine they're still open investigations and you're handing it off to the next person to continue with your work.
That's correct. It makes it easier for them if it's tied up as best we can.
Right. Did you take any of those cases with you when you went over to the cold case unit?
When I came back to cold case, that was the original reason that I even agreed to do cold case homicide investigation was because of unsolved cases that I personally had investigated, one in particular. So as soon as I came back to cold case homicide, the very first thing I did was go and pull Jamie Sheldon's case and bring it over to my desk. That's the first case that went there. And we were able to work, I was honored to be able to work on cases like that and others that I had been a part of when I was a detective, yes.
So in terms of, just explain to the jury what a cold case is. Can you explain that?
Certainly. So a cold case is officially cold when the detectives who are originally signed to it are no longer there, whether they transferred out or they retired. If there isn't an original detective assigned to the case, it's considered cold, right? No one's assigned to it. Those cases can be handed off to other detectives that are still in the unit. I remember, when Marty Wildman left the department, he came over to me personally and said, hey, I'm handing Teresa Insana to you. Can you take this case on and continue to follow it up? It's considered cold because he's gone, right? As soon as he left, it's officially a cold case. But if there's a detective who was originally assigned to the case, it's their case until they're done, right? You're not going to go stepping on toes and just pulling cases and start working on other people's stuff unless they asked you to do it.
And with regards to the cold case unit, I'm assuming there's probably two detectives who are the official detectives for the unit, and then you have investigators, retired homicide detectives that help with the investigation?
That's correct. Initially when Sergeant Hefner, sergeant in homicide, but then came back with me at the same time. So the two of us came back and we were on our own. Like we had a sergeant that was assigned to us, but basically they were a signature block. We could pull any case that we wanted and work on those. The department saw, thankfully, a lot to do with the work that we were getting accomplished, where we solved 20, 25-year-old cases, and the department's able to go to the media and say, look, we're not giving up after all these years. We're going to continue to follow these cases and solve them. Because of that success level, then the department dedicated 2 full-time detectives that were still in homicide to the cold case unit. And then we had, I want to say 3, 4 more cold case investigators that were assigned to us. I think we had a total of 5 or 6 at one point, plus the 2 detectives and a dedicated sergeant to the cold case unit.
So in terms of your work in the cold case as an investigator, you're not a detective, right?
No.
So there is a difference in terms of your responsibilities versus the responsibilities of a detective.
Correct.
Because the detective would be the law enforcement officer.
Certainly.
And you are a person helping the law enforcement officer.
Essentially, I mean, we can still steer the investigation where we want it to go. We're doing interviews, we're doing those things, but say authoring a search warrant. So we run into a situation where we need a search warrant done. It's going to be It may get written by one of us, but it's going to be sworn to as an affidavit by a detective on the department who's a sworn police officer.
Have you ever drafted a report, I don't know, 8 years after you started an investigation?
Well, because of cold case, yes, certainly.
But
Yeah.
just as a police officer or a detective, have you ever waited, say, years to draft an actual report on something?
I don't know what would be my record-breaking delay in authoring a report, but I'd say, you know, if you're dealing with a case where there's nobody in custody, like you haven't arrested anybody, I mean, it probably pushing 2 years before I finally said, you know, and even reluctantly said, all right, I'm gonna close this officer's report. It's signed off because we've run out of investigative leads. We're to that point. There's really nothing else coming in, and now that's officially done. Then there could be maybe somebody calling up, or we could have somebody that gets in a jam, right, where they're now looking at serious time. This has happened to us in cold case, where now that person says, hey, I have information on a murder. So now it's completely open. Now the case is back up and running, and there would be a new officer's report started at that point in time to complete that investigation. I know where the gun is, I know who did the shooting, and now we've got a solved case after 15, 20 years.
Now, have you ever delayed writing an officer's report after going to the grand jury and presenting evidence on that same case?
Yeah, I would say that I've gone to grand jury before officers' reports are done. I would say that I've gone to grand jury before I've started an officer's report. Again, because for me personally, and for a lot of the guys that I work with, I'm not completely OCD, but I mean, certainly there's things that I need to get done, or I'm not going to be able to sleep, that kind of thing. You may feel that way. But I always get the case management form started and maintained up to date. It's going to be up to date. If you make a phone call to me, I'm going to document a date, time, phone call, right? That may not go into the ultimate officer's report because it's superfluous information, didn't mean anything, but I'm going to keep that record in the CMF. I might not even start the officer's report for months, and grand jury may have already happened. Now, I feel now some pressure to get that done, right? Because if I'm going to grand jury, more than likely we have somebody in custody, and I want the district attorney's office to have the benefit of a completed officer's report, although it's not necessary.
Right. And so if you had submitted it to the grand jury or done your grand jury, you're telling us at some point you could delay finalizing your officer's report.
Yes.
Okay. Now, would you delay that officer's report until after you retire?
Well, because I still have a partner that hasn't retired, I can have confidence in doing that. You know, we definitely did have that happen. I recall specifically a double murder that was not, the officer's report wasn't done when I left, because I knew Dean was going to be, Detective Rates was going to be continuing on with it.
Right, so you knew that the other detective would still be the detective handling the case through because you are now retired.
No question.
But what if you didn't have that detective there, that your partner? Would you have delayed after you retired to draft your officer's report?
I would not.
How about?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it, right? I mean, I just know that I wouldn't be able to do it. That's why when, you know, the limo's out in front of headquarters, I'm typing an officer's report. I literally I got the officer's report done and then went downstairs. I was done. I was retired.
Now, can you explain to us? I'm sorry for interrupting, but can you explain for us a little bit about why reports are so important to you in your line of work as a homicide detective?
Reports document everything, right? I mean, you need to document your observations. You need to document evidence, and for us in homicide, or even in the gang unit before that, we did that with officers' reports. Officers' reports don't become evidence, right? Officers' reports are so anybody picking up that case file can walk through the investigation from beginning to the last part of an officer's report is conclusion, right? So it may be a conclusion as to what you believe happened and you don't have somebody in custody. it can be a completed officer's report where the case isn't solved. It's still open, right? But you can, it's, at that point, when you're doing the conclusion, it's more or less your opinion. This is what we believe based on everything else that precedes it in the officer's report.
Okay. And that would, of course, help you later if you ever recalled to testify in front of a jury to recall what happened.
Oh, absolutely. That's the go-to document for somebody who's preparing for trial is that officer's report. I mean, it can be lengthy. I've written officer's reports that are 70 pages long.
And with regard to those reports and being 70 pages long, fair to say that details are super important when you're doing this kind of investigation.
They are.
And that would be helpful for you to remember details in the future, right, to write a good report.
Right. The more extensive and the more detailed your report, the better off you're going to be, the more prepared you're going to be. But in addition to that, you could be documenting things that you observed or that you knew at the time you were doing an investigation that you don't realize were important, right? So I could document something in a crime scene that seems like it's innocuous, something that's just doesn't seem like it's that important. And then later on, when maybe a suspect's in custody or, the investigation's further, then you find out, oh, that one item that you made a note of now becomes important because the suspect touched it or that was the murder weapon that was cleaned up and stuck over there and nobody realized it.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit here. So you're no longer a detective. You're now working with a cold case. Have you taken on any cold cases that weren't yours to begin with?
Certainly.
And what is typically the standard operating procedure when you are starting your investigation as a cold case investigator?
So you're pulling the case file, right? And it can be extensive, depending on the murder, depending on the case that you're looking at, can be rather extensive. Some of the cases that we were pulling had pouches in them with VHS tapes, right? There were separate boxes that had VHS tapes in them. We probably may even know what a VHS tape. So, and we had cassette tapes, right? Actual physical cassette tapes. So we had to maintain a VHS player in homicide to be able to review those things. So we had some of the archaic methods to review evidence. We would go through the entire case file, and that would give us a starting point. As you might imagine, what we're looking for in cold case, because of the advances in technology, is do we have any trace evidence that wasn't analyzed? Do we have any fingerprints that weren't analyzed? Do we have any DNA that maybe, this precedes DNA? We looked at some cases that were before I was born. Okay, it's my 65th lap around the sun. We were looking at cases before I was even on this planet. So you go through the entire thing and you try and make his heads or tails of where the detective took that investigation to that point. Sometimes that could be difficult, especially if you're dealing with one of those Post-it people, right? You're dealing with one of the ones that are writing notes on cocktail napkins and stuff and keeping them in the case file. We'd pull little notes that were like, I have no clue how this relates to the investigation at all. Don't know if they talked to this person, didn't talk to this person. Was this a witness? Was this a secondary victim? We didn't know. So we'd have to try and track those down. And some of the cases were so old that, people that we were dealing with are deceased.
Did you have any success with what you did on the cold case unit?
Oh, certainly, yeah. We had closed quite a few.
So when you say closed, meaning that you were able to find out basically the information you needed, the suspect or whatever the case was?
Yes, absolutely. All the way through to an arrest and prosecution and conviction, yes.
And with regard to the success you had on the cold case, did any of those cases not involve some type of technological thing like either a trace, DNA, or fingerprints?
I think I'd say there was none come to my mind that we didn't have something that was redone and reviewed and then came to a conclusion or pointed to a specific person that we were then able to go and interview. We had one where we flew to Toledo and we got a confession on a murder that happened here in Las Vegas, because that person was already doing life without there for another murder that he had committed. I don't recall that we had any physical evidence in there that we needed. He confessed to it basically. What do I have to lose? I'm already doing life without.
So he basically was in custody ready for a murder in another state and basically
Columbus,
confessed and said, hey, I'm confessing this murder in Nevada.
Correct.
So it wasn't like you found,
We did. I mean, there's, you look at some of these case files, and they're definitely pointing towards a specific person, right? Every indication is that this is who you're dealing with.
Right.
And that it just didn't, you couldn't get it across the finish line, right? And like Jamie Sheldon, I brought up earlier, I know who did that murder, but it's whether or not there's enough to get across the finish line with that piece of evidence that's going to be where the district attorneys are willing to take that case to trial. And you're waiting for that one more thing, right? So it just stays there waiting for that one more piece of evidence to come in. And that happened with some of the cold cases where it's like, hey, we knew who this person was. I remember one specifically where we had a guy where we knew in the gang unit who we were looking for. And then I got to homicide and then looked up case files and saw that that person had never been charged. I'm like, how did he never get charged? We knew who it was. And we were able to then put enough together to arrest him and get a conviction.
And the arrest was because of either DNA or fingerprints or something along those lines?
On that one, no. We had video surveillance that existed at the time on a VHS tape from a 7-Eleven. Back when they were recording over them every 7 days, and so it was grainy, and you're like trying to get a clear enough picture. But we were able to, and we had physical evidence at the time that existed at the time connecting him to other cases, and we were able to get a conviction on that particular case with nothing new.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear. So that was video surveillance with some other physical evidence that helped you solve that particular
Cartridge cases, yes.
Okay. All right. And then in terms of your work, the night of what happened here, now if I could just ask the clerk to switch over to Are you, does this help a little bit here about just zoning into what's, zooming into where this thing happened?
Right, the red triangle, or the red rectangle there is where the cartridge cases are located. Near the intersection, I think the closest piece of evidence was 60 feet away from Koval, and they were out in the travel lane, probably 14, 15 feet away from the south curb.
Okay, so my question is to you very specific. You mentioned a little bit ago about what potentially would be a white Cadillac traveling north on Aubrey. Can you just, you could step out, Dean, if you want, and just actually point with you can just point at the screen from over there so the jury can see.
So this is Koval. This is now the west end, right? Used to be an accident. And this is the Aubrey lane going north. And then down in here is Aubrey Street that cuts over, it actually cuts south and then goes all the way over to the boulevard. But the initial report was that we had this light colored Cadillac occupied by two BMAs that went north on Audrey. So they would have to, with the entourage that everybody had U-turned and gone this direction, they would have to have followed and then turn right to go up on Audrey. There's really no way for you to get from eastbound Flamingo at Koval to northbound Audrey without making a U-turn.
Okay, and just, you could stay there for a second. Dean. The other part here is that I'm just pointing again with my pen, and that would be the area where you found and located the bullets, the cartridge cases?
Cartridge cases, yeah, they're in the eastbound lane, I think the number 3 travel lane, primarily kind of straddling the lane there a little bit, right here before you get to Koval.
Now, if you can describe for us the street. So on that street right there, and I'm just pointing to the part of Flamingo that's, I guess, west of Koval, and then before or between Aubrey and Koval, this area here. Mm-hmm. Is there a concrete divider that's in that area?
There was not a concrete divider, no. And I think now it's like those yellow plastic cones that are every few feet. Now separating it when you come up, because on eastbound Flamingo, there's two left turn lanes to go north on Cobalt, 3 travel lanes, and then a right turn lane to go south on Cobalt.
So, for instance, if cars are going to make a U-turn and turn around and follow, like say, for instance, the black BMW, right? The other cars could just basically just make a left-hand turn and go right back. They don't have to go in procession around and keep going. Fair?
Yeah, now they would be hitting all those yellow cones. So I don't know. I don't think back then, I think you could probably just right there. I mean, it's a violation of the law.
It is.
Yes, you could certainly make a U-turn there.
Because my understanding is those cones that you're talking about would be actually on Cobalt to prevent people, I guess it's like to stop traffic from merging or having too much lanes or traffic in that area. Do you recall that?
I know all the yellow cones because I took a fellow marshal to the airport yesterday, and the lady in the box actually took me north on Cobalt to pass that intersection. So I was able to see all the yellow plastic. They're permanent cones that are there dividing the north or east and westbound traffic.
Right. But at the time, your recollection back in 1996, you don't know if there were cones up at that
I
point.
don't know there wasn't.
Yeah.
I know there wasn't. And there wasn't a New Jersey wall, so I think, you could just make the turn.
Just
There might
make
have been a curb. There might have been a cement curb. But I don't see that in the photo, and I don't have an independent recollection of it.
Gotcha. So those cars are, if we're trying to envision the BMW getting shot at, and at some point it's making a U-turn, there's some discussion about rims on the vehicle being messed up because of.
And it's possible.
And then as it's going down, the other cars would have just either just turned around and made a immediate left.
Possibly. I know, because we never went to Harmon and the Boulevard, never saw the entourage, the other vehicles that had gone down there.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Jackman?
Briefly. I don't know if you retired on a Friday, but if you knew when you retired on Friday that on Monday you were going to be right back there as a cold case investigator, you wouldn't feel, or would you have felt, the need to finish that Friday before you got in the limousine?
I think I would have been okay to let it go. Yeah, that'd have been all right, and skip that part.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Has there been at least one case with you and I, in fact, where there was never an officer's report that was able to be completed?
No, Debbie Flores Narvaez.
And, is there any requirement that there be an officer's report created?
No, again, officer's report's not evidence, right? It's just kind of a guideline to go through the case file itself. There was, in the case that we're talking about, a case management form that went all the way through the investigation, so it really wasn't necessary to get to put it on a trial and get a successful conviction.
You mentioned as well that old case files. You've looked at, you said case files from before you were even born.
Yes.
You don't know if all of the reports that were ever generated were in that file or not in that file when you get the case, correct?
I could say that there were some case files that we pulled that they weren't even in 3-ring binders anymore. They were in accordion files, and there were definitely things missing, right, over time. The frustrating part of cold cases, going to pull evidence and seeing that it had long been destroyed, wasn't even available anymore, which shouldn't happen, but it sometimes does. And so, you're trying to piece together the case even without some pieces of evidence that you think is crucial.
So despite not having maybe everything that the original detectives have, you don't just give up. You still try and solve the crime.
Exactly. Well, you go redo it, right? I mean, if there's indication, like again, if you got a cocktail napkin with a name and a date of birth on there, but you don't know how that was involved, then if that person's still around, you go interview them. And, we ended up doing it in cold case. We ended up doing a bunch of traveling to where we would go do those interviews and sit down with people, and, they have, being a witness to or being involved or even connecting remotely to a violent incident like that or a murder,
That's called a significant emotional event, right? You're going to remember very specific details. I'm sure in your own life you've had that, where something really significant hits you. You can remember what you were wearing, you can remember the smell, you can remember where people are standing. So we're able to just go back and redo that interview and then put that into the case file, even though it was missing.
And you sort of said this, but in a lot of those case files, law enforcement knows what they believe to be the story. They just don't have the witnesses to present in a courtroom to establish the crime beyond a reasonable doubt.
No question. I would say, especially during 2 years of investigation in the gang unit, also the 2 years on the RICO task force that we were involved in, we were dealing with gang-related crimes, and there were many cases where we had something happen with, we knew 50 people around, right? There were 50 people there, and you start talking to witnesses, and everybody has the same statement. I heard shots, I ran, and the police stopped me for no reason, right? So you don't get that level of cooperation because people are afraid, right? People maybe think because they think gangs might be involved, they don't want to say anything, they keep it to themselves, and they live with the fact that they didn't help, right? But then with cold case, we were able to come back to some of these older cases where now that young gang member that might have had 7% body fat back then and was, in his prime and was scary is now an older toothless, bulldog, that's resting in the shade. So people are not afraid to now come forward and say, yeah, I was there, I saw it, I know exactly who did it, and I can prove it. So we were able to solve some cases like that, which was good.
And you even mentioned a situation where you read through the file, you're like, I know who did it. You flew to Toledo, and he confessed.
Correct.
And that can happen in cold cases as well.
Yes, it does, thankfully.
Nothing further.
Mr. DiGiacomo, are you moving to admit Exhibits 129A through G?
I was going to have her mark them first before I offer.
Okay. Was there an objection to the admission of them?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. They will be admitted, and you may mark them. Jessica. And Mr. Sam, further questions? Okay.
Sorry, I thought I was done with you before.
No worries.
So with regards to the this incident, I want to make sure I'm clear here. You thought you had a suspect. What did you do? Send him a letter and say you need to confess to this crime? I mean, how did that work out with the thing that happened in Toledo?
Oh, in Toledo?
Yeah.
We had put together enough of the case to know, with every bit of confidence that it was him, even to the point where we were able to author an arrest warrant for him. And then we were in contact with the correctional facility that he was in custody and let them know that we wanted to come out. They actually approached him to let him know that detectives from Las Vegas want to come out and speak with you. And he agreed, right? And he's sitting in custody for, serving life without for actually killing two people, a child and the child's father. And so, I think probably just for entertainment value alone, he agreed to talk to us, and we were able to come out there, sit down with him. They pulled him out of his cell, obviously, and away from the rest of the inmates. And we talked to him for a couple hours before lunch, and then we broke for lunch, and then after lunch he told us he did it.
So you put together information here in Las Vegas. That was all corroborated, right? I mean, you had information, you had evidence that you were putting together, right?
Correct.
And all that evidence pointed towards this particular person.
Did it?
And then at some point you said, we just don't have enough. We would want to hear from this guy himself. And that's when you went out to Toledo to confront him on it?
I think that we would have been able to get a conviction without him telling us that he did it, but why not? I mean, if we went there and he said, "Pound Sam, I'm not going to tell you." Like, you flew all the way out here, and now I'm not going to tell you that I did it. I mean, we still would have gone forward, but it certainly, bolsters the case to have him say, "Yes, I did it, and this is what I did before and after," which is what he was able to do.
Right. So in the case you were developing, you had corroborating evidence here in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And this was just the final, cherry on top to actually hear him say the words that, yeah, I did it.
Agreed.
Now, the corroborating evidence you had here, though, was your investigation. I would assume that it had some physical evidence, witnesses, that kind of thing to it?
It did.
Okay. And your testimony here right now is literally, you don't necessarily even need his confession. You could have just done it without.
Yes.
Now, in addition to that, obviously, if you didn't have those things, you suspected somebody, but you don't have DNA, you don't have fingerprints, you don't have an eyewitness, you don't have surveillance video, you don't have anything at all that would tie that person to whatever the crime you believe has occurred, that would mean at that particular point you don't have it, right?
I would agree with that.
Now, in addition to that, your testimony here is, and I want to make sure I'm clear, you were a gang person before, and those field interview cards would be helpful if you were looking into a potential crime where someone is accused of the crime. Like, look at those field interview cards, right?
Field interview cards are very valuable. I worked bike patrol before the gang unit, and we filled out probably more FI cards, field interview cards, than a lot of the gang detectives did. That got me voluntold to test for gangs, and so yeah, field interview cards are very, very valuable piece of information because you're contacting somebody in a non-threatening, non-arrest, non-custodial environment, and they're telling you, they're giving you information that you're able to document.
And if you can explain to the jury a little bit what a field interview card is.
So that, like I was talking about that stop that we were on before the code red was called. So we were talking to some gang members that were gathered out in a neighborhood that we were familiar with gang members that we were familiar with. And so each time they're contacted, we would do a field interview card, little small, 3x5 card. This is a rights card, but it's about just like this. It's white, and it has all of their pertinent information, name, date of birth, all height, weight, eye color, all those things, where you're contacting them, and there's a narrative portion on the back. And most of the gang members in that type of environment would say, yeah, hey, I'm 18th Street. I'm like, whatever, for life. I'm 18th Street for life. So you document that. That's 18th Street for life, because that's maintained in what you've heard, the gang file, for a period of time until that person says, no, I'm not. I don't affiliate with them. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm away from it. And then if that stays consistent for a certain amount of time, then that person's no longer in the gang file.
And is it every time that person comes in contact with law enforcement that a new card is generated because it's a physical thing?
A new card is I always did. It documented my stop. It documented my activity. It documented our work. It documented. Plus, it starts the time clock every time, right? So every time that person admits, every time that person's in the company of other known gang members, and then it starts that time clock so that they stay in the gang file until that time expires. So you want the clock to continue to start over.
Okay, and just one last question, and I hate hammering the heck out of this report stuff, but in terms of the example that was given you by the state, they said, well, if you retire and then you go into cold case, you can continue on with the investigation if it's a cold case, right?
I would, yeah, definitely.
How about the district attorney's office? You're an investigator at the district attorney's office. Does the district attorney's office have a cold case team?
We didn't have anybody assigned to us. At the time, because I left in January of 23, at the time we didn't have anybody that was catching our cold cases specifically, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
Right, so you are testifying that Metro has a cold case unit, to which if you're a detective with homicide and you want to take a case with you, you could have done that, right?
Certainly.
But with regards to taking your case as a homicide detective and now working for the district attorney's office, that's not how that typically works, right?
I wouldn't know how they function with it, because I know, we put a case file together and we submit that case, it gets approved by the DA's office, and that the district attorney may recognize certain things that need to be cleaned up or need to be followed up on that maybe wouldn't come back to the detective in homicide. Because keep in mind, if we're working a big case, we're still catching new cases. There's not, you don't catch a big case and then all of a sudden, time out, and I get to do this, work this case. You're still catching new cases. We worked one weekend in 2003 where we had 6 murders in one weekend. So you're up going into the weekend and up on rotation coming out of the weekend because all the teams caught a case.
And so, just for the jury so they understand, Metro is the police department, they do investigations.
Correct.
Once you're done with the investigation, you develop a suspect, you then submit that request to the DA's office and the district attorney's office for prosecution.
Correct.
The district attorney's office, on the other hand, do not have investigators that initiate cases to be charged, right?
I don't know how the DA's investigators run their, I know I had contact with them multiple times over the years because now we've involved the DA's office in what we've produced because we seek the truth. DA's office seeks justice, right? So but I know there may be some incidental things that come up that an investigator will handle rather than taking it back to the homicide detective for follow-up.
In your experience throughout law enforcement, even up to currently, have you ever seen an investigator or the Clark County District Attorney's Office be the primary officer on a case?
No.
No further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. DiGiacomo? No. Any questions from the jury? We do have at least once. Can I have the parties approach? Except we only have one. All right. Question from our jurors. There are 8 cones, but only 7 glass bottles in evidence. Was there another bullet not accounted for in the envelopes, or are there only 7 cases located were there only 7 cases located on the scene?
Good question. So the cone that was closest in the picture, if you remember, I said that was a bullet fragment. So underneath that cone was just a piece of a bullet, mostly just the lead. And so the bullet fragment plus the 7 cases.
Any follow-up questions based on that, Mr. DiGiacomo?
Detective, you opened the 7 casings, correct?
Yes.
Showing you with the marked state's proposed exhibit number 130. These appear to be all the bullets and fragments that were collected by Dan Ford.
That's correct. They were also listed on the evidence inventory that I've seen a copy of. I recognize the handwriting and initial MP number for Dan Ford.
As, once again, there's also a blue stripe on here. I'm not going to open this one. There's also a blue stripe on here indicating that they were forensically tested as well.
Yes.
Judge, I'll move to admit 130.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other questions that you have?
No.
Mr. Sampt, questions on this question? Essentially?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect. All right. You are free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time we are going to take our lunch break. During this recess, you are admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected to the trial, or read, watch, or listen to any report or commentary on the trial of any person connected to this case by any medium of information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, the internet, and radio, or form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until the case is submitted to you. We'll be in recess until 1:45. Please rise for the jury. So 1:45, guys. All right, jury's exited. Anything we need to address outside the presence?
Hang on. Not from the state, Judge.
We'll be in recess. Thanks, guys.